I've talked about it in other videos as well, but a reiteration, especially of something like this, is very, very important. You need to know that in this country, often, very, very often, when there is a large sum of money involved in a civil dispute, in a property dispute, in any sort of a commercial dispute, there is a very, very large propensity for litigants, the citizens of this great nation, to invoke criminal system of justice to try and push the other party into the corner. Sometimes you are the perpetrator and sometimes you are the victim. I wonder which side you would want to be on when something like this ever happens. This person recently reached out to me and narrated this ordeal. A long one, a very interesting one. But for those of you who are not now acclimatized to hearing such stories, you will be shocked, you will be astounded at the kind of insanity that goes on in this country. Yet, you need to be aware of situations like this. Again and again, you need to hammer it in your head that protecting yourself as well as using the criminal justice system to your advantage is something that you must have knowledge about. And I say this because just 2 days back, I was having a conversation with this friend of mine who is very, very affluent. And I told him the same story that I'm going to be narrating to you guys right now. And he told me that this is absolute insanity. For him to get into a dispute like this and to keep fighting despite facing all of this, he would rather just give it up. But I had to explain to him, and I explained this thing in some other video as well, that if you do not understand how the system works, you might be ready to give away one property, or you might be ready to give up on one small claim here or there. Yet, if you have a long life ahead of you, and if you have plans to make a lot of money, or if you already have a lot of money and you plan to protect that money and protect your assets, you need to be aware of the kind of monstrosity that is the criminal justice system, and either choose to use it to your advantage or at least know the tricks of the trade so as to protect yourself when someone invokes it wrongfully against you. This person recently reached out and told me that he purchased a little apartment from his friend, someone that he knew for the past 10 years. So he paid a good, I think 1/3 portion of the amount. He was given possession also by the friend. And then a couple of months later, when it is clear that this friend is not going to execute the sale deed in this person's favor, this person reached out to me. Let's just call him Ajay. Ajay then files a civil suit for injunction and for specific performance of the agreement to sell. And he says that I have made this 1/3 payment already. I'm already in possession of the property. This person may be directed to execute the sale deed in my favor. Ajay's former friend then colludes with the society in which the apartment is there and gets the water and electricity connection cut off. Ajay then has to move out with his family because he is not able to get the water and the electricity supply despite going back to the civil court, seeking an injunction and trying various things, going to different courts. In the meanwhile, he understands that he is not going to get electricity or water access. So he moves out with his family. He comes back after a couple of days to pick up some stuff and he sees that someone else has placed locks on the door of his apartment. He understands that it must be the former friend. Ajay then calls his locksmith, tries to get the lock changed. The friend shows up with several friends. Both parties throw a bunch of punches around. Ajay immediately goes to his local police station and gives the complaint. The SHO of the police station is very, very cooperative up until he gets a phone call and then he says, all right, I'm busy with some work now. Come after 2 days and then we'll sort this situation out. In the meanwhile, Ajay's former friend goes, gets an MLC done, gets the FIR registered in another police station, of course, after having paid some money to the station house officer, that is the SHO of another police station, then gets Ajay and his entire family arrested. Ajay and his entire family are running pillar to post, trying to get bail for each of the members who have been arrested, including the locksmith. And then when Ajay and his family kind of regroup together and try to take stock of the situation, they go back to the apartment where they see that the entire apartment has been cleaned out by who we can only assume to be Ajay's former friend. Then Ajay says, what do I do? Of course, Ajay is doing everything that he can. I gave him some more suggestions as well. And then Ajay asked whether all of the very, very valuable things which are lying in his apartment, which are now stolen by his former friend, can he recover those items back? Because very, very sadly, the apartment over which he was fighting with his friend, the cost of that apartment was less than the valuables which were there in the apartment itself. It was one of those things that the former friend knew that Ajay was holding some of these things because he needed, he needed those valuables, that money for certain, emergency family situation, because of which he was holding a lot of this amount inside his own house. So one big mistake that Ajay did was he did not keep any security guard, any relative, any person, any acquaintance inside the flat so that nobody could take forceful possession. The second thing that Ajay did wrong was keep so many valuables inside the house, of course, which is something that I would recommend nobody to do. And then subsequently, Ajay told me that right now the situation is that despite getting an injunction from the civil court against the former friend has right now placed his own mother inside that flat. And despite it being established that Ajay is in possession, at least on the record, the former friend, the defendant in that civil suit now has placed his mother. And when he files the contempt petition that I recommended he file, in response, the defendant, the former friend is just going to say, I have no idea what this guy is talking about. He came and picked a fight with me, because of which I registered an FIR against him. My mother is not at this flat. So when the person applies for the appointment of a local commissioner to then go to the apartment and check who is actually in possession, they will only find locks placed by God knows whom on that premises. And with the authority of the court, the local commissioner will get the locks broken and hand over physical possession again to Ajay and his family. Ajay and his family went through so much of trouble and faced jail time, spent lakhs and lakhs of rupees on lawyers. Secondly, and most devastatingly, Ajay's family lost valuables which were worth more than the apartment itself. Why did it all happen? Because Ajay was not smart enough to be friends with his local police station. And I don't blame him. You're not supposed to be going and bribing your local SHO all the time just because you see all of these atrocities happening across the country. What can I over here, sitting thousands and thousands of kilometers away from Ajay, do? I can assist him if things get worse. I have given him some strategies as well. I've given him some of those strategies which will maybe help him to a certain extent. But to establish with an absolute certainty that it was Ajay's former friend, the defendant in the matter, who had stolen these goods from the apartment, and moreover, even if that is established, to ascertain the extent to which the goods were stolen, because you cannot have receipts for everything, if you understand what I mean. Several valuables are in the family for generations. There are no receipts for that. And even otherwise, even if it is established that these people did break in and did commit theft, at the most they go to jail. They will not be liable in a criminal case to return the goods. And if the goods are not found, Ajay and his family will have to file a civil suit to recover the amount of the valuables that were stolen from the former friend. Talking about this is something that, honestly, it pains me to say, is something which I'm so used to. But then when other people hear these stories, they're astounded, and that reminds me that this is not normal. This is the kind of insanity that goes on in this country. Can we pull out a couple of lessons from this story? I leave you to figure that out.